in what ways does racism in mental health research affect the outcomes of Gypsies, Roma and Travellers?
I think what we see is, we see really there's a silence in the literature. So there often isn't any research. It's reliant on smaller scale studies. Um, so when she mentioned kind of even some of the more government stuff that's gone on, the data collection is not consistent across services. So the NHS does not record travellers and ethnicity in the NHS data dictionary, which means we have no idea of what the actual the health outcomes are. So we have smaller scale studies that are saying, suicide rates are higher than the national average, and anecdotally we know this to be true. But there's no data to back this up, and part of that is to do with how travellers are understood. And I think so. When I talk about Irish travellers specifically, we have to be understood through the lens of British colonialism in Ireland, but also the oppression of Pavi peoples, that's Irish travellers, by the Irish state. And this is important in understanding kind of why we're silenced, but also some of the research approaches. We often, we're assessed and I would say misunderstood through the gaze of outsiders. And this comes, back to this understanding of whose understanding of wellness are we talking about, whose systems to promote wellness are we using? Are these institutions free of violence, or do they enact a different kind of violence? And I think for me, these are questions I think about, and I think about mental health a lot. I lost two uncles to suicide. It is the norm. We have normalized that, but it isn't normal. And I think it's a reaction to a lot of things, and oppression is part of that, and a big part of it. And I think people, because travellers are Irish travellers, I'm going to talk about specifically, are a white minority, and we do have to consider how whiteness plays within that. But it means that you're not considered in kind of broader data collection, and there's almost a general kind of apathy towards it. Generally, travellers are almost seen kind of as responsible for their own situation, and it contributes to mental ill health. And unfortunately for us, that silence is being paid for with the lives of Gypsy, Roma and Traveller people, and the trauma that is left behind in families. And how many tears have to be shed before people care? We care as individuals, and often kind of more broadly, people don't really care. And for us, it's an epidemic, and it's been ongoing for a very long time. And I think it's that kind of general people not caring that results in that. And yeah, it's a very difficult topic.